Hi dear students, we are going to continue with the chapter 1, the living world. In the first session, we started the topic, what is living? In that, mainly we were discussing about the distinctive features or distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organisms. So the characteristics, which one we were discussing? Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment and make a suitable response, and some more features which are added to this, that metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact and emergence. So from this, the first characteristic we discussed. Which was the first characteristic we discussed? Good, growth. And in that we discussed that all living organisms grow. And one point which was specified, and even I told you that it can be asked in exam. What was that? Twin characteristics of growth. Which are the twin characteristics of growth? Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. But when we were discussing about these twin characteristics, and from that if we consider increase in mass, then we realized that in the case of non-living objects also, according to increase in body mass, growth is happening. That is by the accumulation of materials on the surface. But anyhow, if we are considering increase in body mass and increase in the number of individuals are the twin characteristic of living organisms. So when we are considering increase in mass in the case of non-living objects, there also, even because of the accumulation of material on the surface, increase in body mass happened, or we can say growth happened. So in short, we have to say that growth cannot be taken as a defining property of living organism. With this we completed the topic. Now today again we are going to discuss about another characteristic. Whether it is a defining property or not, we have to see. So next characteristic which we are going to see, that is reproduction. So in lower classes when we are learning, in 2 columns we are writing the difference between living and non-living. In one of the characteristics definitely it was there, living things can reproduce and non-living things cannot. Here now we are going to see that reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organisms. In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Listen once again. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organisms. In multicellular organisms we already discussed. Yes, what is that? Organisms which are made up of more than one cells. So in multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of, underline that. What does reproduction refer to? In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny. Progeny means young one, possessing features or characteristics more or less similar to those of parents. So how we can define reproduction? In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of what? Progeny. And what do they possess? They are possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably and implicitly. Implicitly word yesterday also we discussed. In the last session also we discussed. What was that? Yes, essentially connected with. Invariably and implicitly we refer to sexual reproduction. So mainly we are dealing with which one? We are discussing about what? Sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. And fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. That means here you have to understand the mode of reproduction, that is asexual, and from that which one? Spore formation. Through spores. So from the spores, new one, the progeny is germinating or developing. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. So in the case of fungi, they multiply and spread easily because of the millions of asexual spores they produce. And in lower organisms like yeast and hydra, they are increasing by budding, asexual reproduction. In planaria, that is a flatworm, we observe true regeneration. What do you mean by regeneration? Re means again. Generation means generating, producing. That means again producing. See here the definition. That is, fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and becomes a new organism. So in the case of planaria, if we are cutting the organism into three, so from the first portion head is there, so middle and the tail will be originated. From the middle head and tail will be originated, and from the tail the other two portions will be regenerated. So that's why we are saying that in the case of planaria, there through true regeneration, what happened? New organisms are developing. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the Protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. I'm sorry, one more point is there. So what we were explaining, in planaria flatworms, we observe true regeneration, that is, fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and becomes a new organism. Yes, the same was there. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the Protonema of mosses. This topic you will learn in third chapter, because there we have to learn about plant kingdom. So in that, when we are going to learn about algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperms, angiosperms and all, so this topic will come there in detail to discuss. So just now you have to just understand what that. Just now you have to understand what. Yes, Protonema of mosses all easily multiply by what? Fragmentation. So different types of asexual reproduction we have told just now. Which one? First of all, in fungi, they are multiplying and spreading easily by what? Millions of asexual spores they produce. Lower organisms like yeast and hydra through budding. In planaria, a flatworm, they increase in number by true regeneration. The fungi, filamentous algae, the Protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. Now from this, when are coming to unicellular organisms. So we are discussing about first of all multicellular, then after symbol, then coming to unicellular. So listen, here we have to understand, when it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba. Once again listen, when it comes to unicellular organism, the organism which is made up of only single cell or one cell. So unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is increase in number of cells. As we discussed, the twin characteristic of living is, when we are considering the twin characteristics, according to that, which one? First, increase in mass and increase in number of individuals, which are the twin characteristics of living organisms. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is, increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass, because we already discussed about the twin characteristic of growth. So according to that, increase in number of cells can be considered as a synonym of reproduction. Hence we notice that in single-celled organisms, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. So if we are considering a unique feature, otherwise a distinctive feature of living as reproduction, but some of the examples are coming as such. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. If the organism is living, if we are considering reproduction as a unique feature or a defining feature, then each and every organism should reproduce. But here we are realizing that some of the organisms which do not reproduce. For example, mules. Mules, you know, it's a hybrid of horse and donkey. And sterile worker bees. Related to bees, you know that is really astonishing. They are having a very good division of labor. Queen is there, soldier is there, worker bees are there. So means from those, worker bees are sterile. They are not having the reproduction capacity or fertilizing capacity. And another one, infertile human couples. That also you know that. Many of the couples, even they are adopting the child because of this problem. But we cannot consider them as non-living. They are living, but reproduction capacity is not there. So in that case, how we can define reproduction as a specific feature or a defining feature? So again we are coming to the conclusion that hence reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organisms. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. So when we are discussing about growth, one of the twin characteristics, increase in mass. So there the example we observed, what was that? Because of the accumulation of the materials on the surface, increase in body mass is happening in the case of non-living objects such as mountains, boulders, etc. So there we came in the conclusion that because of that, growth cannot be considered as a defining feature or defining property of living organism. But when we are taking reproduction as a characteristic, many examples we discussed. Even though the organisms are living, but they are not having the reproduction capacity. So that's why we concluded reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. But one thing is clear, that no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. So when we took reproduction as a characteristic, we discussed about in multicellular organism how it's there. In simple living organisms, how it is there, and in the case of unicellular organisms, how it is there. And that's why we told that. So we are not, means in the case of single celled organisms or unicellular organisms, we are not very clear about the usage of two terms, that is growth and reproduction. So now the two characteristics till now we were considering as the feature or specific characteristic of living organism. Now in 11th standard, after coming to this level, we are understanding that these two features, when we are going in depth, we cannot consider them as a unique feature or a defining feature of living organism. So this paragraph, once again I am reading very fast. Please go through the content. Reproduction, likewise, is a characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably and implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, coming under flatworms, that is platyhelminths or platyhelminthes, we observe true regeneration. What is true regeneration or what is regeneration? Yes, a fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and becomes a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, that is, increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in single-celled organisms, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce, such as mules, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organisms. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. So now we are going to learn about the another characteristic of life. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. In the last session I told you that it is a biochemical process. It's a product of catabolism and anabolism. So let's see here now what we are going to explain. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made up of chemicals. These chemicals, small and big, belonging to various classes, sizes, functions, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. Once again, see the point. All living organisms are made up of chemicals. These chemicals, small and big, belonging to various classes, sizes, functions, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions, this changing from one to another, that's why we are saying these conversions are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. So being made and changed, all these conversions are actually what? They are the chemical reactions, or we can call it as metabolic reactions. There are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular. It's a very important point, you have to understand that. Whether the organism is unicellular, made up of only single cell, and if it is made up of more than one cell, in any of the type, whether it is a unicellular organism or a multicellular organism, but what is must? Thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms. All plants, animals, fungi and microbes exhibit metabolism. And whether it is a microbe, a microscopic organism, even that is also exhibiting what? Metabolism. Metabolism is chemical reactions, metabolic reactions. So all plants, animals, fungi and microbes exhibit what? Metabolism. Underline the point, the sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body is known as metabolism. So how we can define metabolism? What is metabolism or define metabolism? The sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body is known as metabolism. You have to underline that. Important point is that no non-living object exhibits metabolism. No non-living object exhibits metabolism. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free systems. So metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free systems. An isolated metabolic reaction or reactions outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living or non-living. So another important point, please you have to understand that an isolated metabolic reaction, that means we told that metabolism is the sum total of all chemical reaction occurring in our body, and even we told that thousands of metabolic reactions are occurring simultaneously inside the living organisms. And here the point we are telling, an isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living or non-living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organism, without exception, isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living things but surely living reactions. So listen here. When this metabolic reaction or chemical reaction which is happening outside the body of organism, and if it is performed in a test tube, we cannot consider them as living or as non-living. But we can simply say that they are living reactions. So we are not calling them as living thing or non-living thing, but we are simply saying what? Living reactions. So in vitro, inside the test tube, in vitro culture means you have to understand test tube culture. So in vitro means it is happening outside the body, but definitely reactions are happening. But we cannot call it as living because out of the body it is happening. And we cannot call it as non-living also because the reactions are occurring there. So we are defining them as what? They are not living, they are not non-living, but they are living reactions. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. So from this metabolism, we have to understand cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. So means what to understand? Cellular organization means whether it is a unicellular organism or a multicellular organism, thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside the living organism, and the sum total of all chemical reaction occurring in our body is known as metabolism. And the thing is very clear that no non-living object exhibit metabolism. Even the metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the cell. And for example, an isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living or non-living, but we are calling them as what? Living reactions. While metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms without exception, isolated metabolic reactions, that means separated metabolic reactions, one of the reaction is separated and conducting outside. So that's why we are calling it as isolated. A separated metabolic reaction conducting outside the body, that is in the test tube in vitro, are not living things but surely living reactions. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life. So first time we are telling that which is the defining feature of life forms? Yes, cellular organization. Cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. Whether it is a unicellular or a multicellular, and the metabolic reactions happening inside the living organisms. Perhaps the most obvious, the most clear and technically complicated feature of all living organism is this ability to sense their surroundings or environment and respond to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical or biological. So when we started the topic what is living, in that the characteristics we discussed, growth, reproduction, and the third was what? Ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response. The same we are discussing here. Out of these 3 points we discussed, that means growth, reproduction, we already told that we cannot consider both of the characteristics as the defining feature of life forms. And the metabolism we discussed, from that we came to know that cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. Now next point we are telling here, perhaps the most obvious, the most clear and technically complicated feature of all living organism is what? The ability to sense their surroundings or environment and respond to these environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical or biological. Means if the organism is living, it should have or it must have the ability to sense their surroundings or environment and must respond to these environmental stimuli, and that stimulus which can be physical, chemical or biological. Even in the last session I discussed with you this response matter. So in that the example was cited, which one? If we are touching a hot object, we are taking immediately our finger back. So there the hot object is the stimulus and taking our hand back is the response. So the reaction of ours is the response. Because of what we react, that is the stimulus. Plural of stimulus is stimuli. We sense our environment through our sense organs. That you know very well. Which are our sense organs? How many sense organs do we have? Yes, 5. Which are they? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. So through these 5 sense organs, we are sensing our environment. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms. Even in 10th standard you would have learned about this reaction of plants towards light. if we are keeping a potted plant nearby window, and from where the light is coming towards that side, the plant is curving and growing. Phototropism. Tropism means movement towards. Movement towards light is known as what? Phototropism. And all the plant's root is growing towards down. Geotropism. Towards water. Hydrotropism. So like this, even plants are exhibiting response. So now, plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutants, etc. All organisms from the prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues. Environmental cues means environmental factors or environmental stimuli. See the point once again. All organisms from the prokaryotes. What you are knowing about prokaryotes? What are prokaryotes? Pro means primitive. Karyon means nucleus. Prokaryote means primitive nucleus. Eukaryotes, EU means true. Karyote means again karyon nucleus. That means true nucleus. In the case of prokaryotes, they are not having well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. But in the case of eukaryotes, they are having well-defined nucleus and well-defined membrane-bound organelles. In prokaryotes, in the place of nucleus, what is present? Nucleus-like part is there, that is known as nucleoid. So here, all organisms from the prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues or environmental stimuli. Photoperiod affects reproduction in seasonal breeders, both plants and animals. Listen, photoperiod, the duration of light. Photoperiod affects reproduction in seasonal breeders. Means whomsoever animals, the breeding time, that is if according to season. So in them, photoperiod affects a lot. It affects their reproduction. Both plants and animals, in both the case. All organisms handle chemicals entering their bodies. All organisms therefore are aware of their surroundings. Means in short, we have to say that each and every organism, whether it is a living organism, it's having the sense of environment, and according to the stimulus, they are having the ability to respond also there. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self-consciousness. It's a very, very important point. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself. We are always telling that as compared to all other organisms, the intelligent one is human being. So human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organism. So in the metabolism, when we were discussing, so we concluded that cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. When we took ability to sense their surroundings or environment and respond to these environmental stimuli, we came in the conclusion that human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, that is, has self-consciousness. So in that case, consciousness becomes the defining property of living organisms. When it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patients lying in coma in hospitals, virtually supported by machines which replace heart and lungs. Means we cannot call them as non-living and we cannot call them as living, because they are virtually supported by machines which replace the heart and lungs, the patient is already in coma. Nowadays virtual classrooms are there. So now that word is very familiar to you. So when it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patients lying in coma in hospitals virtually supported by machines, almost supported by machines which replace the heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. Because our controlling part, that is the brain, but the brain is dead. In coma state it is dead. Because of the machines it's working. The patient has no self-consciousness. So are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non-living. So in that case, it's very difficult for us to defining the feature of living and characteristic self-consciousness considering is very difficult. Because we told in the last paragraph, consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organisms. In coma state, the patient who is lying in hospital and even who is supported by machines which replace the heart and lungs, brain dead is there, he is not having self-consciousness, and such patients who is not at all going to come back to normal life, what we can call them? Living, non-living? It's up to you. You have to define, you have to finalize what we can call them. Till when the last breath is not happening, so we cannot call them as died also there. Breathing is going on. Body with the help of machines is working also there. But as living being, they are not able to do anything also there. So what we can call them? It's very difficult to define. In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions. Listen. So now somewhat idea you would have got. In lower classes, whatever characteristics we learned, in 2 columns we were writing. But now after coming in 11th standard, when we are taking these characteristics as specific features of living, how we can differentiate living and non-living, most of the points, most of the characteristics we are seeing that we cannot consider them as defining feature. And from the point we are starting, when we are coming to the conclusion, some other things we are getting as a defining feature. Metabolism we started, we concluded with cellular organization of the body. Ability to sense surrounding and responding to that, we come to the conclusion consciousness is the defining property of living organism. And again, the question kept us in dilemma connected with a brain dead coma patient. So that was really confusing. Now we are telling in higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions. Properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells but arise as a result of interactions among the constituent cells. Dear students, this paragraph we have to understand very clearly. Somewhat confusing like that, but very simple. What in this paragraph it is telling? First of all, in higher classes you will come to know that all living phenomena, phenomenon singular, phenomena plural, or processes we can call, you will come to know that all living phenomena, all living processes are due to underlying interactions. Properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells but arise as a result of interactions among the constituent cells. So listen, underline these points, very important. Properties of tissues are not being in the constituent cells. Means, you know that tissues are what? It's an aggregation of cells. or the same function performing cells aggregate to form what? Tissues. So if we have to see the property of tissues and it is not present in the constituent cell, and that property of tissue is overall what actually? It is the interaction among the constituent cells. So how many of the cells are there among themselves? How the interactions there? And that interaction is the property of tissue, not only of the constituent cells, the interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelle, but arise as a result of the interaction among the molecular components comprising the organelle. Even you know that each and every cell, in that cell, we are telling that cell is the basic fundamental unit. And now we are telling even in the cell also what is present? Division of labor is there. Cellular organelles are present there. You would have learned the same topic even in 9th standard and somewhat in 10th. Related to cell, a complete chapter, the fundamental unit of life, and a cell. So in that, all the points were discussed. You would have learned in detail. Cell organelles are present inside the cell. Different cell organelles are there. Powerhouse of the cell, that is mitochondria, ribosomes, Golgi bodies, lysosomes. So like that many. So now what we are saying, similarly as we discussed, properties of tissues are not present in the constituent cells but arise as a result of interactions among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelle but arise as a result of the interaction among the molecular components comprising the organelle. That means, if we have to consider the property of cellular organelle and that is not present in the molecular constituents, but how it is arising? Because of the interactions among the molecular components comprising the organelle. And within that organelle, whatever molecular components is there and how these components are interacting. So that was the first point of ours in this paragraph. That means, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to the underlying interaction. Even inside the cellular organelle also the interaction is among what? The molecular components there. These interactions result in emergent properties. Emergent means coming into being. The process of coming into being, that is known as emergent properties. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level of organization. This phenomenon is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that all living organisms are self-replicating, evolving and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. So now, in this paragraph, including all the characteristics, we are summarizing the defining properties of life. You can see here how it is defined. Therefore, we can say that underline, living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, means evolution is happening, self-regulating, they are having the awareness, self-regulating, interactive systems. Just now we discussed, there is an underlying interaction is there. Capable of responding to external stimuli. That means you can see here most of the characteristics are considered. Self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating, interaction and then responding to stimuli. So biology is the story of life on earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organism on earth. All living organisms, present, past and future, are linked to one another by the sharing of the common genetic material but to varying degrees. So now the first topic of this chapter, what is living? To explain that, we have taken into consideration many characteristics. From that, some of the characteristics we discussed in detail. Then we came to know that till now whatever we were learning as the defining properties are not at all as the defining property of living organism. And with those characteristics we cannot compare or differentiate living and non-living. And then now in the last paragraph we are giving a definition to living organism, including all the characteristics or points. How we can define? Living organisms are self-replicating, evolving and self-regulating interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. So in the lower classes whatever we learned as living organism, and in this higher level what we are learning the defining or definition or the definition, you can see a vast difference in that. And biology is the study of life we told till now. So biology is the story of life on earth, and biology is the story of evolution of living organisms on earth. All living organisms, present, past and future, are linked to one another. They are connected to one another. They are linked to one another by what? The sharing of the common genetic material. What is that common genetic material? Yes, very good. DNA. What is DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. But the degree is varying in different organisms. That is only the difference. So all living organisms, present, past and future, are linked to one another by the sharing of the common genetic material, that is DNA. But it is varying in degrees in different organisms. So now the first topic of this chapter, what is living, here we are going to complete. So whatever the points today we discussed, you have to read the content, you have to understand the topic. In first reading you will feel like that it's complicated. Once or twice you have to read, you have to make it clear. I hope you will do the same. Thank you so much for the session. Thank you.